Hey everybody, what's up? This is Chad Cravens with Open Source Systems. Today is screencast 008. Today we're doing an Eclipse install with Git Integration. Eclipse is an integrated development environment, an IDE, and essentially what an IDE is, for those who haven't worked with code a lot or haven't worked with an IDE like Eclipse, is an IDE is kind of like a fancy text editor. Okay, you can edit code in it, but it does that and so much more. An IDE will actually understand the code that you're writing, will tell you kind of real time whether you have mistakes, any misspellings, missing semicolons. It also integrates a lot of tools, so your development process you can easily integrate with version control systems. And essentially that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to step-by-step show you how to install Eclipse, get working with it, which is a distributed version control system, and actually get a little project up and running, just to kind of show you the workflow and the process of Git. So we're going to download an open source project, and we're gonna contribute some code to it. So the first thing we need to do for Eclipse is open up a browser. You can go to a web search engine like Google, type Eclipse, and the first thing that should come up is the website, www.eclipse.org. Go ahead and enter the website. You notice here they've got a lot of information. I would invite you to poke around, see everything that the community is doing. It's a very active community. Eclipse is an open source project, and there is continually being additional support for other tools from the open source community. So very, very active. It's a good IDE to know, and it's very popular. So go ahead and click that big button that said downloads. What we're going to do is we're going to download the latest, which is called Eclipse Kepler. So we're going to download that version for my Mac, 64-bit. So we're going to click that. You notice that it chooses a mirror for us that it thinks we should use, Oregon State University Open Source Lab. That sounds awesome. We'll go and click that, and it's a 200 megabyte download. So you see, for me on my internet connection, it's going to take about 5 minutes. We'll go ahead and just fast forward through this and get the Eclipse download. Okay, awesome. Now that you downloaded Eclipse, it should, if you're running a Mac anyways, it should be on your downloads folder. So I have that open over here. You notice that I have a file here that says .tar.gz. So this is Eclipse Standard Kepler for Mac OS, 64-bit, .tar.gz. So the way you open this is you're going to right-click on the tar.gz file. You're going to say open with archive utility. That is going to, so essentially it's like a zip file. It's going to unzip the file, and inside of it we have all the Eclipse stuff that we need. Now, important point I want to make on this is you may be excited and you say, okay, well, I've got my Eclipse, and really this is the installation process. Is you download this zip file or a tar file, and you untar it or unzip it, and you have this eclipse.app program. This will work most of the time. However, for some it may not. If it says that it requires a Java install, what you need to do is go to google.com and search for Java SDK. And you'll come up here to where oracle.com, and you will see Java SE Development Kit 7 downloads. That's what you need to install. So go ahead and install the development kit. You can say I accept the license agreement, and for your platform, Mac OS 64 in my case, I would essentially download this dimage file and then install it. I already have it installed, so I don't need to worry about that, but just a heads up if you try to run Eclipse and you come up with that problem. Okay, the next thing I do is I create a folder in my home directory called DevCore. So DevCore has a lot of the tools and things that I use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open up a new Finder window here, and I'm going to take this Eclipse in my downloads folder. I'm going to take this Eclipse folder, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and drag that over into my DevCore folder. Ooh, let's try that again. Take Eclipse here and select my DevCore folder, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to copy and paste it over there. And I'm just going to rename it with a capital E. That's, just preference there. Okay, so that is the install process. That's all I had to do. All I had to do was download the tar file, untar it, and then take that untart file, that folder, copy and drag it over to a folder in my home directory that I call devcore. Okay, so I've got this Eclipse folder. So now I have the Eclipse app. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it down to my little bar down here, click it to open it. Okay, and for Mac users, again, you may come up with this error. In order to get by this, really what you need to do is just right click on the app and say open, and that should open it for you. Okay, so now we got Eclipse. We have Eclipse Kepler, which is the latest. We're going to go ahead and let this, it may take a few minutes to open for you. Well, it didn't for me. It's going to ask you to select a workspace. Okay, now this is an important part. The workspace is a root folder that has all the projects that you're gonna be working with in Eclipse. Okay. Now I literally work with probably 60 or 70 different projects on my computer. Software projects that I'm currently working on, some for years, some that I haven't worked on in a while, some that I work on sporadically. So I have a lot of different workspaces. When I am working with people on Eclipse and development, I have them create a workspace folder on their desktop just so that they can get a feeling for it. So what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and on your desktop, right click and do new folder and call this one workspace. Okay, now if you're running a Mac, you're going to want to go to Users, C. Craven's desktop workspace. Okay, if you're running a different environment, I think for Windows it's users / username / desktop, so similar to this, and on Linux it's going to be home / your username / desktop. So more or less the same, but that should get you there. Okay, so now our workspace is going to be this folder that we chose. So I'm going to go ahead and open this folder. Let me clean this up a little bit here. This is my workspace folder. Now, when I choose this workspace folder on my desktop as my workspace in this box, Eclipse is going to now create folders here, but they're hidden folders. Okay, so we can't see them in Finder, but trust me, they're there. And what that does, that stores all of our settings and everything. Okay, this is the welcome window that you get with Eclipse. So if you got here, this is awesome. You've installed Eclipse. Now Eclipse Standard does come with basic capabilities. It's really kind of focused and geared towards Java. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do a brief overview of Eclipse. Once you get to this point, this is the Eclipse IDE. Okay, it's really ready for you to program. But like I said, it's got to focus on Java. The way you can tell that is right now we have the Java perspective open. Okay, so Eclipse has really two components to it. It has perspectives and it has views. Now a view is like the basic component, and that's what this is. So this would be the problems view. It's like a little tab. This would be the Java doc view. This would be the declaration view. This would be the, guess it, package explorer view. This would be the outline view. Okay, so right now we have this perspective, which is just all these views kind of bundled up together. Okay, our perspective is chosen up here on the right hand side. You can see by hovering that little icon, it says open perspective. If I click that, I've got different perspectives that I can choose. So I can click that and select the debug perspective, say OK, and you notice now my views have changed to accommodate debugging Java applications. So I've got different views now that are open in a different arrangement. And I can always go back to my Java perspective by clicking on this button, or open up my debug perspective. Okay, so these are perspectives up here in the right hand corner. These tabs you see here are views. Okay, those are really pretty much the basic components of Eclipse. All right, a lot of people will say that Eclipse does come with a pretty steep learning curve. That may or may not be true. It did for me. I've been working with Eclipse for years, and it has taken me a lot of getting used to. But with the right guidance, watching these screencasts, hopefully that cuts a lot of your time down. You don't have to spend years to try to get used to this IDE. Plus, over the last few years, they've really improved it. They made it a lot easier. But it's still not without its quirks, and we'll try to work around those. Okay, so I said before, we're doing a couple things. We are installing Eclipse, which we did. So you saw all we did was downloaded the file, unzipped it or untarred it, and then took it over to our devcore folder. Awesome, we got Eclipse going. The next thing is we need Eclipse to do more things, okay? And we do that by installing software. And the way you install, and it's not software on your computer, it's software within Eclipse. So Eclipse is like its own little runtime environment, and we can install little modules that are Eclipse modules. They're called plugins. And we install these plugins into Eclipse, and that allows us to do other things. So right now, we don't have the ability to work with Git or Github. And we need to install the plugin that allows us to do that. And the way we do that is we go to the Help menu, and where it says Install New Software, we're going to click that. And you'll notice here that we have this screen that came up. And what this does, this allows us to choose different download sites. So when people in the open source community are creating plugins for Eclipse, they're going to upload them to their own essentially software site. And that's what you can choose here. So right now we have two software sites. We have the Kepler and we have Project Updates. Okay, those are the only two that come with Eclipse, the Eclipse standard that we downloaded. What we need to do is we need to find the plugin for Git. Okay, and this is kind of the standard process that you may go through. You need to say Eclipse Git, and what it'll do is Google will bring up a few things that it sees. Well, you want to install Git for Eclipse, you may want to look at eGit. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to click eGit, and we come to the website eGit. This is actually exactly what we want. This is a plugin that allows us to interact with Git, the version control system Git, and which is going to allow us to work with GitHub. Okay, and where it says download. Now, the interesting thing, and actually the really good thing about plugins, is we don't actually download anything. All we have to do is we have to give Eclipse the link, and Eclipse will download and install for us. All right, so we don't have to manage any little installs. The way we do that is through what's called an update site. So you can see I clicked on the download link, and up here it gives us several ways to essentially download via the Eclipse Marketplace or an update site. We won't work with the Marketplace right now. What I do want to do is I just want to show you this update site. So they say this main update site. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to say copy link address. Okay, so now I've copied this address into my clipboard. We're going to go back to Eclipse, and you can see we've got this little install window up. Click add, because we need to add this eGit site. Okay, and we're going to just call it eGit right up here in the name. The location, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control V or Command V in Mac and paste that Eclipse updates link that we just copied from here. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. We're going to say OK, and what it does, it goes out and it reads this update site, and it says, oh, I found two plugins that you may want to install. We're just going to install this top one here, this Eclipse Git Team Provider. Okay, so we're just going to click that, check it, say next, and it's going to tell us everything that we're installing. Say next, accept the terms of the license agreement, and finish. So Eclipse is going to download all the little files that make up the plugin, and then it's going to ask us to restart. Now, we're not restarting the computer, we're just going to be restarting Eclipse, okay? So go ahead and say yes. We definitely want to restart Eclipse just to make sure everything is synced up and working properly. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this while it installs. Okay, so once you get to this screen, it's asking you if you want to restart Eclipse. Click yes. Okay, Eclipse will restart. And now, really, that's as simple as it gets. Again, it's going to ask us to select our workspace. I'm choosing the workspace on my desktop. Say OK. And you'll notice here in my Finder view of that workspace folder, we still don't have anything that's showing in Finder yet. Okay, but I do want to show you what is going to come up. Okay, so now we have Git installed. And really, that's about it. So you notice not much has changed in our Java perspective. So remember, we have a Java perspective selected here. Not much has really changed. It looks the same. The reason is because we have Git installed, but we're not seeing any of the views that are provided by the eGit plugin. So the way we're gonna see those views is by clicking Window and selecting Show View, and then down at the bottom, Other. Okay, so Window, Show View, Other. That's going to bring up this this little display box here, and you'll notice we have a folder that says Git. Go ahead and expand that out, and you'll see that we have 5 5 different views that are provided to us through the eGit install. Okay, so I'm gonna hold down the Shift button. I'm gonna select the top one, and I'm gonna click the bottom one. So I'm gonna select all 5 of these views, and then I'm gonna say OK. All right. So what it does is it just throws those views into your workspace, into this perspective here. So now, if I click debug and I click back in my Java perspective, you'll notice I have those views up. So now these Git views are bundled with my Java perspective. Okay. Anytime you want to get rid of a view, just click this little arrow here, and anytime you want to get it back, just say Window, Show View, and if you don't see it here, then click Other, and it'll give you that. Okay. So a lot of the capabilities that Eclipse has, a lot of things you're going to be working with, are done through views. All right. So if you install something, you're not sure how to work with it, make sure go to Window, Show View, and then go ahead and see if it gave you a folder there. So if you want to work with Node, for example, you can install tools for Node development, and there should be a Node folder in there. I think there is anyways. Okay, so having said that, we are going to install another plugin as an example. Okay, if we want to work with web projects, right now we can work with Java code, but what if I want to do web development? What if I want to do HTML and CSS development? Well, I don't really have much to do HTML and CSS. If I go Other, you can see I can work with Ant, or I can work with CVS, or Java, and now Git, but I really don't see anything for web. So what we have to do is we have to install more plugins for web stuff. Okay, the Eclipse that we installed now was just really the minimal basic. All right, and I actually prefer that. I don't want too many bells and whistles. I don't want it too bloated. That initial download. I like to be in control of everything that I install in Eclipse. So go ahead and go to Help and Install New Software. But this time, rather than specifying an update site, we're just going to use the Kepler site. Okay, so we can say work with Kepler. It's going to reach out to Kepler. It's going to see all the different things that we can install now through Kepler. The stuff for testing, so we can expand testing out, and you can see all the a few different plugins for testing, for programming languages. Let's go ahead and select that one out. As you can see, we've got support for C++. So all the things that you see are highlighted or that are colored here, like this one, that has colors. That means that it is not installed. Anything that is currently installed is actually going to be grayed out. Okay. Well, since we want to do web development, basic HTML and CSS, let's go ahead and see down here this Web XML Java EE. Expand that out by clicking that little arrow, and it's going to show us all the things that we can do. Okay, so what we want to install this time around is we want to install the Eclipse Web Developer Tools. All right, so check that and say, check the Eclipse Web Developer Tools. Say Next, and it's going to give us a rundown of what it's going to install. Say Next, accept the licensing agreement. Say Finish, and again, it's the same process like it was with Git. We're going to go ahead and fast forward the install, and we're going to restart Eclipse once it finishes. Okay, once you reach this point, go ahead and restart Eclipse. Again, select the workspace on our desktop. So Users, C. Cravens, Desktop, Workspace. Looks good to me. Okay, so now that we installed the web tools, again, it's going to open up. We're in our Java perspective. Not much has changed, except for a few things. Now, what we need to do now that we installed the web tools is we actually have a brand new perspective that was provided to us through the web tools. So if I click this little perspectives button here, open this up, you'll now notice that I have a web perspective. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select that and say OK. Now you'll see the web perspective comes with, again, just the basics, but we lost all of our Git windows. All right, so what I need to do for the web perspective is, if we're going to work with Git, I need to say Window, Show View, Other, and I need to go to Git again, excuse me, and select all 5 of those views, say OK, and those views are going to pop up. Now, you'll notice that they all popped up there in the right-hand corner. This is all personal preference. I prefer to have all of my Git stuff down here, so my staging, except for my Git repositories, I like to click and drag that to the bottom. So we want to click and drag. So you see how it has the 2 little windows on top of each other in green? Once you drag it like that, you'll see that now these two windows stack nicely. All right. Again, here's some more Git windows I'm going to put down here, and here's another Git window I'm going to put there. Okay. So now we have Git, and we have our web perspective open. You notice that it keeps stacking our different perspectives that we open. If we want to get rid of one, just right-click or control-click on that perspective and say close. Okay, and that'll close that out there. Just kind of clean that up. Okay, so awesome. So we've got this web perspective. We've got this. Question is, now how do I work with Git? And how do I work with Git Eclipse? And we're going to show you. The reason I like working with Git, especially when training new developers and new programmers, is because it offers click capabilities. You can try to teach somebody Git through the command line, but it's a little more intimidating if they're not real familiar and comfortable with the command line. So we're going to use simple GUI tools to manage our Git. Okay. I have an open source project that I have on GitHub called Classmaker. So let's go and check that out here. You can check out our GitHub repo. I think it's github.com/OSSYS. So this is the open source systems repository. We have a repo here called Classmaker. I'm going to click Classmaker. And so this is our repo, github.com/OSSYS/Classmaker. I'm going to copy, so I'm going to control click, copy that URL. And we're going to now download all of those files. Now, this is a Java project. This is not a web project. But I just want to show you how you install or how you clone, essentially. They call it cloning, how you clone a repository, okay? And I want you to watch the Workspace folder when I do this, all right? So I click this little button here with the little blue arrow. It says Clone a Git Repository, okay? I'm going to paste the URI. Now you notice that Mac was like, hold on, don't want you to access the clipboard unless I allow. I'm going to say allow here. And then my password, I actually have that over in another window. So let me just copy and paste that real quick. Okay, awesome. So what this does is this will now allow me to whoops, my apologies. This is a common mistake. Actually, the standard for Git is at the end of the repository to add a .git. So I often forget to do that, and also need to paste my password back in here. So, and I usually click Store and Secure Store. That way I'm not having to type in a password every time I want to do a push on the repo. So again, just go to github.com, find a repo that you'd like to clone. Put that in there and add the .git, add your GitHub username and password here, and select next. It'll go and it'll say, okay, I recognize one branch called master. Awesome, that's the one we want to clone. Now for this step, okay, what this does is this is going to clone that project and it's going to put it into a folder called Classmaker, okay, because that's the name of the repository, Classmaker. Where do we want this folder to be created? We actually want this folder created in our workspace, all right, in our workspace folder. Right now, it says /git, so it puts it in a different folder. We just want to say browse, and we're going to expand this out here, and we're going to go to desktop workspace, okay, and we're going to say save. So right now you can see that now the directory it's going to clone this to is user C. Craven's desktop workspace. All right. Now again, remember, watch this workspace folder over here. When I click the finish button, it's going to clone my repo, create a folder called Classmaker, and put that in my workspace. All right, so let's say finish there. Okay, so you notice the first thing it did was it created that folder over here in Workspace, and now it's downloading all the source code essentially from the repository. And you notice here down at the bottom we have a brand new repository called Classmaker. So it'll tell us all the branches we have in that repository and all that good stuff. Now the question is, okay, well I downloaded all this source code, so how do I actually work with it? The way I usually do that is, well, I'm going to go ahead and open up my Java perspective to do this. So the way I usually do that is I just say new Java project in the package explorer here, or the project explorer, whichever one it says for you. the project name is going to be the same name as the folder that I downloaded. Okay, so you see down here at the bottom it says it will automatically configure everything based on the existing source. Awesome. You can select next. It'll build out the paths. It'll show you everything that it's found. This is actually a Maven project. Say finish. So now you can see that I have my source code downloaded and ready to go. And this is essentially what an IDE is. Okay. Another little trick that I like to do is, you notice when I open up, I like to see lines. Some people do, some people don't. The way you can do that is if you right click in this empty area right here, just go to show line numbers and that'll pop them up there. Okay, so really that's about it. Now, in order to work with Git, I'm not gonna actually go push anything to this repo, but what I do want to do is at least just show you the different ways you can actually start working with Git now. In our Git staging tab, you'll notice that we have all of our unstaged changes. In order to stage a change, you can right click on those files that'll show up in this unstaged area, and you can say add to Git index. That'll add them to the stage. We can write our message, our commit message here, okay? And then we can say either just commit them to the local repo or commit them and then push them out to GitHub again, all right? If you have the permissions on the GitHub repo to push, okay? So that's as easy as it is working with Git in Eclipse. You don't have to open up a terminal and do your git add and git push commands. That can all be done here via clicking buttons. So it just makes it a little easier. Another thing you can do is you can actually right click on the project and you can go down here to where it says team, and here's where you have all of your git commands. So you can do a commit, you can do push, you can pull in changes from the upstream. So pull will actually pull in those changes and merge them into your current code base, as well as a few other things. You can also right click on individual files, for example. This is kind of neat. Go to team and then go to, so you notice that it's different when I click on an individual file. I don't have quite as many options, right? But one thing I do have is I have show in history. So what that's going to do is that's going to show the entire commit history for that specific file inside of my history view, okay, my Git history view. So from here, what I can do is I can do even more things on that specific version of that commit, okay? And for example, I can do a quick diff, or I can also compare it with what's in my workspace. So if I compare, you can see what was committed versus what exists now. Okay, so this is locally what the file is. This is what was committed. So it looks like it was empty, which is kind of weird. But anyways, yeah. So just a good way to explore a lot of different things. Again, working with this is what's going to give you the most comfort and familiarity with it. But I think that's going to wrap it up, this podcast, or this screencast, excuse me. But yeah, thank you very much. If you have any more questions, definitely reach out to us. Open Source Systems, the website, ossys.com. Feel free to reach out there. You can also like us on Facebook. We got a great Facebook page. We post all kinds of cool stuff. Facebook.com/OpenSRCSYS for Open Source Systems. Twitter, we also tweet and do all that stuff. So yeah, definitely reach out if you have any questions. We appreciate you watching the screencast, and we will see you next time.